and from the New Testament, the account of those rather strange but captivating astrologers, wise men who came from the East. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the East came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is this child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. And they told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet, 'And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is the shepherd of my people Israel.'" And then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. And then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child. When you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. And when they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. And on entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. And then opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Here ends our lesson, and may God bless these readings to our understanding. T.S. Eliot wrote in his poem, Four Quarters, "What we call the beginning is often the end, and to make an end is to make a beginning. The end is where we started from, and the end of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." I think the wise men of old must have felt intensely this kind of awakening as they pursued the star to the place where the Christ child lay, and even as they ventured into the unknown, not sure where their journey would lead them. To their astonishment, they too, in a sense, arrived where they began. Yes, and for the first time, really encountered the source of their being. For the place, the end and beginning for them, and I think for each of us, is the Creator God. Yes, the one who chooses us out of his incredible love to become flesh, that we might receive him in all of his fullness as one like us in our humanity. And how the vision of the Magi was radically transformed as they gazed at the newborn babe. I can still remember as a high school student being introduced to the wonders of the microscope. Perhaps some of you had that experience through a devoted biology teacher. And a jar of water was held before the class. It seemed clear and innocuous. We didn't know where the water came from, but actually it came from a stagnant pond nearby. But placed on the glass slide and magnified, a single drop of water revealed a universe not visible to the naked eye. Literally hundreds of life forms were swirling about, living in this pond water. And from this experiment and others, we learned what appears ordinary may be spectacular. We need only to look more closely. And certainly this is an astute lesson for Christmas. At a glance, the nativity seemed an ordinary birth to a peasant couple far from home. But one needs to magnify the event to see the stunning manifestation of God. This wasn't just another baby. As Isaiah assures us, the glory of God has risen upon. For this baby will change the world. And Isaiah continues by saying that nations shall come to your light and kings to your brightness. And Matthew tells us that is exactly what happened. The significance of the baby Jesus was beheld as magnified in the eyes of the Magi. When written large, the message of the delivery of Mary was the thrilling word that God offers us salvation, and that salvation is given to the whole world. There are no exceptions. It embraces the Gentiles and even folks like you and me. Now, people might not realize such important things are being said and such a little happening as one more baby being born into a world of hunger and suffering, abused children, and people so absorbed with their own needs that they can't think of anyone else's. For this reason, it's critical for us to take a little time to magnify the event so that we can see more clearly what's really happening here. For the baby born is nothing less than the unveiling of the full glory of God. Last week, we reflected a bit on the year that was closing and dreamed dreams and saw visions for the new year, the year that was opening up, a fresh time for new thoughts and new resolutions as Christ invites us to co-create in the newness of creation. And in the wholeness and unity, he brings to our world a new vision. Albert Einstein once wrote, "The unleashed power of the atom has changed everything except our ways of thinking. We shall require a substantially new manner of thinking if mankind is to survive." And that new way of thinking is blowing in the wind. It's coming in on the wind of the convergence of space and spirit as the scientist steps out into space to explore the unity of mind. The spiritual person steps within to explore the unity of spirit. The world of science is no longer saying that God is a clock maker who made a clock and left it to run itself, but there is a divine law of nature revealing an intelligence, a consciousness, and that in their quest of knowledge and experience, they're seeing the wisdom of faith. Yes, as we face a new year, it's time to let go of the past and encounter the future with imagination and hope Yes, to let go in trust that God is in control. The beginning of the new year is the season to come inside, both inside to our new homes and hearts, and inside in prayer, to that unique resource which God provides by his presence and love. For with the Magi of old, we turn to the east on this Sunday. Darkness surrenders to the light of Christ. And we're challenged, it seems to me, even as they were, to place our loyalty in Jesus, Emmanuel. Yes, we're invited to entrust our lives, our dreams to him. The words found in Isaiah's call are for a revelation of God's hope and promise in Jesus' birth. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. And he goes on to declare, lift up your eyes and look around. Now, certainly the world has much in it for us to see, but I think too often, to my dismay, I grieve over so many of all ages who seem to be obsessed with their cell phones and other electric devices. And meanwhile, so much of life passes them by. And so too, hurried lives can prevent us from really looking around and taking in what's happening about us. At a party this week, some of us, and I must say it was an age spread, young and old, we're discussing how easy it is for us to lose our identity, who we really are in the midst of so many diversions that play upon us each day of our lives. There isn't time we complain, or I'm never at home. We can even reflect a little pride, I think, in these defenses, and yet so often it's when we're capable of stopping that we really begin to see. Wasn't this the awareness, the acute perception of the wise men? At the very heart of the Magi's wisdom was this kind of revelation, because they're alert and searching, they find the child. While in sharp contrast, Herod and the professional religionists are greatly troubled. Caught up in their own self-centered power struggles, they completely overlook this revelation from on high. Even the forces of armed violence will not flush out the babe. The Magi, however, are open. They're receptive to the leading of a star. They listen to the prophet of a foreign religion. They render homage to a small child in an out-of-the-way town, and they believe. They believe the warning in a dream to steer clear of Herod. For the God who anoints this child speaks across frontiers and vast expanses of land. Yes, the revelation of God's presence is discernible for all who are looking for its signs in the common language of the stars and the playful symbols of a dream, while the manifestation passes over the heads of those intent on holding on to the beaten track of a well-ordered existence. This season of Epiphany, which we began this week, it means to give light, to make something or someone appear, become known, shine, And so the wise men from the east who see his star come to witness the glow and glory of the one to whom it points. And then they take the news of what they have seen back to their own countries. And so, too, it seems to me the birth of Christ is our mystery, our epiphany, as we follow the star that brings us to the wisdom of God, and for us the hope, the promise of this epiphany is in proportion to our willingness to respond to the words, "Lift up your eyes and look around." For once we take to heart this challenge, we discover who we really are. We find our identity as God's disciples. Yes, God is telling us there is a still small voice in the night and day of our lives that says, "Do not fear, for you are redeemed. I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." Then let us listen, stop, and see this precious gift from on high. Amen.